for entertainment purposes only. And if you want true legal advice, contact your own lawyer.
And apparently he's using his little old tiny jet, it's a Lear jet, to fly stuff back and forth, and he got caught. Is it what happened there, Denise?
Well, first of all, he's an attorney and he's licensed to practice law in New York and New Jersey. He was flying between Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Sacramento,
Right.
and he was distributing marijuana. They caught him with $80,000 in cash, vacuum sealed bags, along with cashier's checks for $450,000. They then meaning the police executed on a search warrant in Cameron Park, where he had an industrial suite, and they found what they could, I guess, what you would call an oil extraction kind of a business set up in there, and they had 50-gallon drums of alcohol and a bucket that contained a chemical which would help to extract the oils, and there was 1,000 pounds of marijuana and concentrated cannabis from this lab. Right, so he was taking oil and marijuana and he was distributing around. We don't know exactly the full force of where he was going, but he was doing it out of Sacramento area and distributing it to different states.
And why is this important? Because everyone's thinking, well, in California it's legal to do this, and you can get a permit to do this. But what have we always said, Denise, here on Radio Law Talk about the issue of, okay, this state passes it and that state passes, but what's the problem?
Well, this is federal court, and it's not legal under federal law.
That's right.
But more importantly, it probably would not be legal under state law either, which Todd can describe that because, Todd has gone over those marijuana laws that were brought up in the state of California and passed.
Yeah, it's not a catch-all or a blanket. Now that it's legal, you can do whatever you want. You still have to apply with the state for various licenses, a license to grow, a license to sell. Interestingly enough, in the state of California, I think there's 7 different licenses. Any takers as to which type of license was the one most applied for by a huge margin? Guess, Denise, which one?
Marijuana license?
Yes, which one? The license to grow, the license to sell, the license to...
Oh, the license to sell.
The license to sell, Fred?
I'm going to go grow.
Grow? It was the license to transport.
Oh, the distribution.
The distribution license was the one that was viewed as the most because you don't have as many record keeping. You don't have to talk about how many plants you're growing, what you're doing here. It's just, what did you pick up? Where did you drop it off? How much did you have? And it's all about distribution and logistics and this kind of stuff, getting it from point A to point B. Although I would say that may be one of the most dangerous positions because it's the distribution aspect that might be the most to be knocked off by folks that want to get their pot for free.
Well, what's interesting that I do, I shake hands with a number of people, and one that's an individual that is the super nice guys, not without naming names, have really nice things, have a nice luxury suite at Arena. And you know what they do for a living? They're consultants for marijuana grow and marijuana distribution and anything to do with marijuana in California. What they do is they help you get through the government regulations and file things and get everything done properly because everything is, if you do it right, is legal and you can make a lot of money doing it. And they have made a killing at being consultants on getting through the process with the government to do things legally.
Now, something that I was really curious about, we'll probably hear about this coming up, but one thing I was curious about is whether or not they actually took his Learjet, and captured it and took it in, and now it's evidence. I think we're going to find out about that within the next few weeks.
Here's an interesting thing about him, though. There's a lot of former. Don't forget, this is the marijuana laws have changed in California only recently, but since 2005 on forward, he's had former issues with crimes and being busted for marijuana-related stuff all the way back to 2005.
Yeah, and I don't understand how it can still be licensed in New York and New Jersey with those type of crimes, because if it's a crime of moral turpitude, then he's supposed to get disbarred. Maybe it's just taking a long time for them to get to it. I'm not sure, but it doesn't take much to get disbarred when you're doing criminal activity.
You know, one interesting thing I saw as I was looking at the facts of all of this is, you're talking about $80,000 in cash, $450,000 in cashier's checks, the weight of the marijuana. I mean, part of that doesn't really seem like a whole lot, given that when we first did our first show about marijuana and doing the calculation, if you were really good at growing, you could have almost, if everything was optimal, up to $120,000 of marijuana for your own personal use based upon the street value if you were really good at growing it and how things go. So, I mean, it's a lot, but it's not much more than what you could have for personal use. The big thing was the oil and the production back at the house.
Right. I think the extract oil for sure, because isn't that what don't they use the oil to create hashish?
I don't know. You know what? I'm not a marijuana guy.
But you know what, guys?
No.
Remember the Oregon problem, the overproduction issue. It is an issue. Overproduction is driving the price down. When we first did that show, overproduction was not a problem. In Oregon, they say that they've had to toss out tons and tons, supposedly toss out, which usually means gets exported to other states illegally. Wow. Because of overproduction.
Well, maybe it stopped the cartels from coming here.
Well, and it's interesting you compare that to Nevada, which had the exact opposite problem. They didn't have enough to meet the demand once they had passed it. So. And
Canada too. Remember, Canada passed that, and all of a sudden they couldn't even get businesses up to date to be able to certify.
Go to the website radiolawtalk.com. That's radiolawtalk.com.